Hello, YouTubers. Joe Kersey here of Joe and Paul. Out on the back porch here on Saturday, March 23rd, late in the afternoon here, about 4 o'clock. I've not been talking too much to y'all here this week because it's been a fairly benign week. And not too much going on. I got, since I got all the big March things done, the taxes and the the CME, so kind of adrift. I haven't watched any of this college basketball, although I went to it. I looked at it on the internet and saw how I could watch it should I want to. I was talking to my buddy the other day on FaceTime, and he was watching the Indiana game, but he said it was a blowout, so that meant he could talk to me. He'd gone to Indiana. He had attended Indiana, and but no, it's been fairly benign. Now, we'll give you a swan update. I told you about the swan the other day, and I said it chugged its way out of the ice and went on down the stream. Well, there were about 3 days we didn't see it, and then came back, and it was around for about 2 days. It didn't spend overnight up here, but it was around during the day. And actually, one day it had a fairly substantial interaction with a great blue heron. A lot of mutual flap, 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 flap sort of thing. And the blue heron finally went away, and then the geese, which they had been fairly indifferent to each other, they sort of tried to swim around this swan, and a little lunge, little head fake action on both the male and the female, and so finally the male just sort of wandered up on the creek bank and sort of took a land detour around this swan that was sort of blocking a little egress area there from the backwash. Now my son's down at and his wife and my grandson are down in Cincinnati at my daughter-in-law's sister's wedding. And I guess my grandson's going to be one of these ring bearers, Oh, I hope they don't dress him up in some sort of idiotic costume that makes him look ridiculous, but I suppose it can't look too much more ridiculous. And although they don't really, they tend to try to go without all this logo and pastel-y stuff, so they dress him fairly tastefully. So I'm sure it'll go off very well. This isn't anything that's sudden. I mean, these folks have been living together for, I don't know, 10 years or so or more. Well, there it is. I guess just making it official, I suppose. Well, obviously, if they're getting married, it's official. Now, I guess we're going to get about 2 to 4 inches of snow here on Monday. So we're in sort of that little gradual warm-up period for a storm, comes in. It's up to the mid-40s right now. And gosh, you just got to get out of the house. It just drives you nuts sometimes being inside, although, well, it just drives you nuts being inside. It really does. So now, of course, tomorrow is Palm Sunday, and I'm going to go to the 8 o'clock service. And after a little bit of toing and froing, a little passive-aggressive behavior on both the part of my rector and myself, he decided I'm going to be Pilate at 8 o'clock. Well, that's fine. Pilate's got some lines. Maybe not. Well, it's Luke, so, well, it's there's not as big a colloquy as in the synoptic gospels with Pilate involved as there is in John, but so and it brought to mind this story about a fellow in another church that I heard. And, one year he had been, well, he wanted to be Jesus or the narrator. That's what he wanted to be. Those are the big roles, I was narrator last year at the 10:30 service, and so he says, Peter and servant girl and that kind of stuff, and he said, well, I want to be Jesus or the narrator, and his wife said, are you really ready to be Jesus? And so as it worked out, he was assigned to be Pilate, and when the rector assigned him to be Pilate, he said, perhaps this should give you cause for thought. So so I've been having fun with that. Well, today I was, plowing through the Wall Street Journal after the internet finally came back on, after being down about 6 hours, starting around 2 o'clock this morning until almost 9 o'clock this morning. That's very troublesome. Now, I hope what was happening is the new company that's bought the current cable or the internet provider was switching stuff around such that it'll work, it'll mesh in when they finally make the official change here in June. But who knows? They're not going to tell you, are they? So, anyway, I was plowing through the Wall Street Journal, and there was this thing about credit scores. Well, it's the old thing about, every year you get a free credit score. Every year you get a free credit score. Okay, fine. There's no such thing as a free credit score, guys. There just isn't. But nonetheless, I went to this website, that was referenced in the article. I mean, there's a link in the article. It's the Wall Street Journal, for what that's worth. And I got, well, the first two was one was like TransUnion, and the other one was like Experian, I guess. Experian. It's, well, Experian or Equifax, one or the other. Well, so and that was okay. That was no problem. I didn't get the score because they wanted you to pay for the score. So, you see, it's not a free credit score, is it? So the third one, though, asked me a bunch of security questions about, we show that you took out a mortgage loan in 2007, and we show that you took out an auto loan in 2008. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't taken out a mortgage loan since, 1984. No, I'm sorry, 1983. And then I paid the thing off in about 2 years, And I paid off the mortgage on this place where I'm sitting in 1986. So, that's obviously not true. I didn't ask for a mortgage loan. And I didn't take an automobile loan when I bought my last vehicle here in 2007. The one and only time I ever had to borrow money to buy a vehicle was in 2000, which I paid that off in about 18 months. So clearly something's amiss. So of course you have to send it all in by paperwork and copy this and copy that. So we'll see, I guess I've got time to do it now, don't I? Well, now one last fast story, and then I'll shut up. I will pay for this. I shouldn't do this, but this is just too good to pass up. My ex-wife, who I talk to about about 2 or 3 times a week, she was saying about her downstairs toilet, was having problems flushing. Okay, that happens. And I said, well, I very, stupidly said, oh, what's wrong? Well, it turns out that what it is the little handle, the handle, here's the tank, and here's then the handle, when she'd move it, it just swung freely. Well, okay, obviously, as anybody who's ever looked inside a toilet knows, there's the shaft, the little metal shaft goes through, and then you've got a little bushing, here, and then you've got like a set screw of some variety that then you can adjust the angle of the thing and, how far it raises the thing up on the flat valve, all that kind of stuff. And so I explained that to her. And of course, then you start getting the excuses. Then you start getting these wonderful, wonderful excuses. Oh, I can't lift that toilet lid. Yes, you can. What do I look for? What do I look for again? And you explain it again. And so actually at some point apparently, because she had to go in and take a leak or something while we were talking, and apparently she, was intrigued. Her interest had been piqued by my suggestion, and so apparently she had looked in the toilet tank. And she says, "Well, I can't figure that out. It's there, but I can't figure that out." So I said, "Well, just is this regular head screw or a Phillips head screw or an Allen head, or is there like a wing nut, or no details forthcoming on that." So I said, "Well, why don't you ask Thomas?" Now, that's my son, his mother. Why don't you ask Thomas come over and do it for you? I mean, it's like a 2-minute job, if you have the right. It was the only thing that really complicates is if you need to get an Allen wrench. Not everybody has a set of Allen wrenches. I mean, or you may have to go buy a new wing nut if it's all rusted or something. And so she calls me back the next day, and he says, "Well, I talked to Thomas about this, and he just says he's not gonna do that." He says to me, "Did you talk to Dad about it?" And she says, "Yes." And he said, "Did Dad tell you what to do?" And she says, "Yes." And Thomas said, "Well, I'm not going to come over and do it then." So she calls a plumber. Now, she calls a plumber. Now, you know what a plumber costs per hour. And it's not like they charge by part of the hour. It's like, if they show up, that's an hour. So this guy comes over and he looks at the problem and he says, "Well, he says, I'm going to be nice about this. I'm not even going to charge you for coming out." And he says, "I can tell you what to do right now." So he basically told her what I just said. He says, "It'll be about $3 up at the hardware store. You can even buy a whole new handle and shaft." Oh, no. She says, "We'll fix it." So this guy drives up to the hardware store, buys one of these handles, comes back and fixes it. And the bill, it's like, $3, $3.50 for the handle. It's like, $99. And there's sales tax now in Ohio on services. So she goes, so it's like $115 or something for this. So anyway, so she goes in and she tries to use the can. Well, apparently what happened is the guy just tightened the thing on and he didn't try to, a test flush. Or maybe he's one of these guys that he likes to have the handle so you have to hold it continually down while you're flushing rather than just, pull it down and go out the door. So she goes in. Well, Faith's always been one of these people that likes to, oops, I let that slip out, didn't I? She likes to go in and I guess just touch it and leave. I mean, flee the kingdom, I mean, there's toxic fumes. Get out of Dodge, So she calls this guy back. She says, "It's not working right. It's not working right." So indeed he comes back and he adjusts the thing so that, it gets the flap up high enough so that the thing flushes without you having to hold the little flap up a little bit. Okay. Well, at the same time, he also noticed that because of the change in dynamic, she had mentioned that the ball valve was running. It was running, so it wasn't like it was running leaking. It was running. It was filling very slowly because the ball valve had sort of gotten stuck. And so he put a little Vaseline on the ball valve hinge. I'm so glad I'm not that way yet, although Lord knows it might happen. I certainly hope I'm carried off before I get like that, but we never know, do we? So Paul's not home yet, and it's a wonderful day, and I don't know, I may look at some of this basketball, I don't know. But it's so great to be able to be outside here, you know, on the back porch and the back deck. Alrighty now. Goodbye now, YouTubers.